All right, protesters are lashing out again, but the governor is not backing down at all. Michigan's right-to-work law set to kick in 1 week from today. Republican Governor Rick Snyder is here. Governor, good to see you. I was mentioning during the break whether it bothers you when you see yourself portrayed as Satan or, the devil eyes and all that stuff.
Yeah, Neil, well, it's great to be with you. I just feel it's part of democracy. I was hired to do a job by my customers, the citizens of the state of Michigan, and I'm doing the right thing. It's about workers' rights, and it's about bringing more jobs to Michigan. So I'm just going to do my job.
All right, so we were talking about the possibility, an errant judge, overturns this, and it's in limbo again. We saw these type of machinations back and forth in Wisconsin. What do you think happens?
Well, again, we're going to end up winning the lawsuits, in my view. We may lose at some lower court level. Our track record's really good on this, though, and you just keep moving forward. Again, I have a philosophy: relentless positive action, no blame, no credit. What's the problem? Solve the problem with common sense and be relentless, one problem after another. And because of that, that's one of the causes we're the comeback state in Michigan, because we're getting people focused on the issues and solving them.
And I guess what your critics are saying, mainly these union guys, Governor, is they don't doubt your resolve to move to fix things, but whether you trample on them as a result. I think this emergency manager you've appointed in Detroit, they don't much like the idea of that. And of course, we should hasten to add here that when executives in the city are carted off to jail, it kind of ties your hands about what you've got to do to correct that. But what do you make of that? That all of a sudden a governor appointee taken from the private sector is now essentially the boss of Detroit?
Well, if you follow through the process, Detroit still has elected representation. I'm governor of Michigan. It's not Detroit versus Michigan. It's Detroit, Michigan. And that person is responsible to me.
What do you call him then? He's an emergency manager.
Yeah, he's an emergency manager.
So what kind of decisions will he make?
Well, he will be the decision maker. But again, the mayor's been a great participant. We've done this in a couple other cities where we still have an active mayor. We have a city council giving advice and being involved in the process because they should be involved. It's great to have them involved, and it works.
Why did you do this? Their idea is, where did this come from? We don't need that.
Well, again, if you step back and look at it, we did this in a very progressive, thoughtful fashion following the law. This is basically, that's why the law does work, in the sense that first we tried to work in a collaborative fashion, just talking about how can we be a good partner. The next step was we did a consent agreement where we sat down with the city that they agreed to do a number of actions that they weren't able to implement in a timely fashion. And then we looked to say, what's the long-term path? Is there a real plan here in place that they've put together that will work to turn Detroit around? They worked hard on it in good faith,
right,
but it wasn't enough. So the point is, Detroit's been going downhill since the 1950s. It had, 1.5 million plus people at one point. Now it's 700,000. Wow. The citizens of Detroit deserve a better answer, and I believe they want a better answer.
So when they talk about this being a hostile takeover of local government, the one thing they fear, Governor, I don't know if it's the case or not, you can educate me, is that you're setting Detroit up for bankruptcy filing.
Again, that's one tool in the toolkit, but the preference is to work with people.
Would you be open to that?
I wouldn't take it off the table because that wouldn't be doing my duty. Because, again, that's one of the tools that's available. My preference, and I know the preference of the emergency manager, Kevin Orr, is to say, let's get people around the table and negotiate this out in good faith. Everyone knows there needs to be a better solution. The solution to Detroit long-term is to grow the city. And it begins by better services, short-term cash management, a long-term liability repayment plan that works, and let's get going. So instead of people arguing about the past, let's build. Let's make Detroit a city.
But obviously you're a very smart negotiator in your own right, because when you even mention the bankruptcy word, you are sending a not-so-subtle signal to unions that you got to cough up or compromise, because the next alternative, and this is always the case in bankruptcy, all contracts are null and void, and you might be in deeper doo-doo.
Well, I wouldn't just pick the unions. I say everyone needs to come to the table and talk through this.
How likely do you think bankruptcy is?
Well, again, I hope it's not something that's going to happen.
How likely do you think?
Well, I'm not going to put a probability on it, because in good faith, we're going to work hard to say that is something that we're not going to end up there.
Yeah.
It's really up to all the people coming to the table to say, let's solve the problem, because the citizens of Detroit deserve better services. Public safety, lighting, the list goes on. This is a situation that Detroit has many good things going, and that's something I just want to emphasize to you, Neil. We're talking about the city government, but occupancy is 95% in downtown, midtown Detroit. Employers are bringing jobs back in Detroit. There's some exciting things that as we resolve this, Detroit's got a bright future.
All right, that may be the case, but in the meantime, you have been worried about what's happening not only in Detroit, but in the state. Healthcare coming. A lot of Democrats were saying on this, the third anniversary of the healthcare law, that they're not running away from it. They're embracing it. And in the midterm elections, they're going to keep pushing it. And they're going to go after Republican governors who've been opposing it and resisting it, because this is the law, this is the way, Americans like it, and you've got to get on the wagon.
Well, what I say is, I believe I need to comply with the law as an elected official. But what I can say is the Affordable Care Act was a misfire in many respects. And I said there were at least two other things that were more important that really aren't being addressed. First and foremost is health and wellness. I mean, we need more personal responsibility. If you want to solve our health care crisis, if we all did a better job of taking care of ourselves, that would solve most of the problems.
You don't think the law does that?
No, not really. And the second one is it didn't focus on the cost structures to get more to a primary care medical home model where we have a primary care relationship and all those things. So in many respects, it jumped too much to the insurance question.
You embraced a lot of the parts. As did Chris Christie in New Jersey and Rick Scott in Florida, even though they opposed it because they figured, you know, they look at the dollars and cents. It saves them money if unless they went on their own, and it costs them more money. But wasn't that sort of the Faustian pact that was made on the part of the administration and Democrats to push this, that they knew you would have no other choice but to go along because it would cost you and your residents more if you didn't?
Well, the way I describe it, though, is I won't take federal dollars just to take dollars. That's not the role of government.
But if they're taking dollars that you're spending now from you.
Yeah, but no, you still step back. In terms of the Medicaid expansion piece, the way I looked at it, doing the analysis under the options, it does save us budget dollars at the state level. But it's a question of if we can truly say that we can get people in a primary care relationship where they get physical and immunizations versus being unmanaged, uncontrolled, being in that uncompensated care situation, there is a real savings. And in Michigan, we've got a track record of managing programs well enough. That's why I think it's important for the states to be involved. Because, again, if you give me a choice between the state running a program and the federal government, I have confidence we can do it right. So this is a case where, given that, there was a circumstance that makes sense for us to move forward. In Michigan, we actually had an opportunity, though, to say we can take part of those savings and put them in what I call a health savings account, just like you'd have personally.
Right.
And it would build up to the point where we could do that 10% copay and take us through 2034. Or if they changed the law to try to say all of a sudden you're going to have huge costs, we would have built up money for unexpected medical expenses. So, again, there are thoughtful ways to do it. Every state's different, but in Michigan, we have a plan that I think is thoughtful and effective.
We'll watch closely, Governor. Thank you very, very much. Governor Rick Snyder.